Soulmates. At first, he didn't believe something so fictitious would or could exist. It first came to him as a joke when he overheard his friends and classmates talking about it. But it never occurred to him that the topic of something so incredulous would reach the point where several journalists and news channels began to address this controversial matter. They couldn't be serious, he thought to himself one day, mind refusing to wrap itself around the fact that people were somehow connected to someone by some string of fate. Something like this just couldn't be real. However, things and people around him began to change, drastically, and he wasn't sure if he was on board with it. A floral ink pattern began to appear on Midoriya's wrist in intricate wisps while they were on break in between classes, him and the classmates present watching with wide eyes as the same pattern danced across the icy hot student sitting across from Mizuku. Todo. Midoriya's voice began to drift. Cheeks flushed a violent crimson, staring disbelievingly at Todoroki, whose cheeks were also a flush pink and lips parted slightly. Rare did two people so close together be declared soulmates. The female students around them began to gush about the new pair, while the boys gave them encouraging pats on the back, wishing them well. Kirishima held a tight smile, head filled with rampant thoughts but still feeling obligated to congratulate his friends. Kirishima was open-minded, but with a vast increase of soulmates and the different methods people have been granted to find these supposed eternal partners suddenly emerging, he was certain that this was going to cause some sort of issue. People in current relationships could be torn apart once they found out that they weren't meant to be together, that there was someone else out there that, as told by some stupid fate, was the actual one. He couldn't imagine anyone who worked so hard to make a relationship work, who spent so much time together, creating moments and memories that should last a lifetime, just end up throwing all that away because a stupid tug of a string told them to. Kirishima! The redhead turned to see Kaminari running up to him, quickly taking notice of the peculiar pink streak of hair in between the blonde's fingers. Check this out! By the time Kaminari reached his friend, he let the pink streak slip from his fingers, watching as it defied the laws of gravity and stayed suspended in mid-air. Kirishima thought it looked ridiculous, a strand of bubblegum pink hair projecting from the blonde head of Kaminari Denki, weaving about strangely. This means I have a soulmate, Kiri! Kaminari began to shake the redhead by the shoulders excitedly, fantasizing about who his supposed partner was. Eijirou, on the other hand, kept a questioning expression on his face. The methods about finding soulmates were getting more and more absurd, from words tattooed on skin to sharing your soulmate's eye color in one eye. It seemed that more and more methods began to appear every day, and the whole finding your soulmate incident only happened not even a month ago. It was almost laughable. Eijirou sighed, leaning against one of the desks as Kaminari went to show off his floating bubblegum streak to the other students. The redhead scanned the other students silently. He saw Sero with a dark handprint on his left forearm that had appeared in the middle of training one day, Tsuyo Yorizu, who was giggling embarrassingly as Uraraka, Mina, and Toru badgered her about the now lilac-purple iris that took over her normally dark eyes. Hell, even Bakugo, who had a name written on his wrist. The easiest fucking thing in the world. It was surprising when the student that donned that name, who also happened to share Katsuki's explosive nature, came bursting in looking for him. Kirishima chuckled bitterly. It would have been too much of an overstatement if he said that he hated the idea of having a soulmate out there. In truth, he liked the idea of having someone who was meant to be with him. But he didn't want to risk having his partner leave a current relationship, if they were in one, never mind risking their very life with his hero work. He leaned his head back, shutting his eyes. He felt like he was being forced to find this person and automatically produce feelings for them, just because the world said that he and this person were meant to be. What does that even mean? Were two people really meant to be in just one glance? He brought his head forward, a dragged-out sigh escaping his lips. Surely he could repress these thoughts and bubbly feelings with ease, right? He wasn't particularly looking for a relationship at the moment, so surely he could continue about his life like normal, right? wrong. Throughout the past few weeks, the talk of soulmates took over all of UA. Things have been going smoothly for Class 1A. Midoriya and Todoroki had managed to make things work at a slow, yet steady pace. Sero had run into his soulmate after saving them from an accident, the dark handprint of his bursting into splashes of color that brought an even brighter smile to his face. Even Bakugo had calmed down, surprisingly, after he began to spend time with his partner. Things were going well, except for Kirishima. His usual exuberant, toothy smile wasn't as bright as it was. He was happy his friends were beginning to find happiness in others, but the selfish side of him wondered if he would experience something like that. He told himself those weeks ago that he would be able to continue living without knowing who his soulmate was, or if he had one. He was given no sign whatsoever indicating that he had a special person soon entering his life. No ink, no difference in eye color, no weird strand of hair. Nothing. He even tried to write on his skin in secret, seeing if he was able to contact them. Nothing. He hated to admit it, but he felt lost. Surely he had to have someone connected to him. He bit his lip, eyes fixated to the floor in thought. Funny, isn't it? At first, he didn't believe in this red string of fate. Now, it seemed as though he was woven in a web of emotions, tangled in a mess of thoughts and feelings he had never felt before, constricting him, keeping him locked in place until he submitted to them. Seeing how anticipated his friends were, waiting excitedly, almost impatiently to run into their other half, seeing the happiness and relief bloom from their faces when they mentioned their soulmates and how they first met them, like they were drunk off some kind of toxin. It almost frustrated him. The very thought of a soulmate was throwing him out of whack. But then again, Kirishima wanted to hear the distant chimes of bells the moment he locks eyes with his soulmate, to feel the stillness of time as he drowns in the gaze of the one tied to him, to experience the beautiful case of serendipity, a tickle in his stomach, feeling the fluttering of butterflies as his mouth ran dry, tears welling up in his vermilion eyes, relief washing over him like a tidal wave, knowing that he wasn't alone in the world. He wanted to feel that level of ecstasy. Yo, Kiri. Kaminari nudged his friend on the shoulder, nearly making Kirishima jump at the sudden contact. Are you coming? Kirishima tilted his head, not at all catching what the group was talking about. Since it's Friday, we're all planning to gather at the common room for some karaoke. Mina spoke up, skipping over beside the blonde. So, are you coming or not? The redhead's friends looked at him expectantly, making Eijirou sigh. With a lopsided smile, he nodded, continuing his way to the lunchroom and getting lost in his thoughts again. What's with him? He heard Mina whisper behind him, earning a sound of uncertainty from Kaminari. He's been acting weird lately. Kirishima unconsciously drowned out the skeptical mumbles from his friends as he kept walking, the chatter around him serving as white noise for his thoughts. There was something eating away at him, but he couldn't pinpoint it. A low humming distantly calling from the back of his mind, but he checked off the hum as a sign of his brain overworking itself. He hoped this whole karaoke get-together would temporarily quiet his rampaging emotions. The common room was alive with loud music and banter that night. Kirishima was sure his class would wake up the entire campus if they kept on. For once in the past few weeks, Kirishima let himself loose as he, Kaminari, and Mina belted out the lyrics to Barbie Girl, Listen to Your Heart and 1,000 Miles like drunken idiots, minus the alcohol. A genuine smile decorated the redhead's face as he handed the microphone to Uraraka and threw himself on the couch, giving his voice a break as he watched the brunette begin a lighthearted duet with Ishido. Glad to see you're back, Kiri, Sero said, laying a hand on Eijirou's shoulder from behind the couch. He was one of many who caught on to Kirishima's stupor, growing concern for his friend. Yet, he had a good idea where this dazed shark boy came from. He handed the redhead a glass of water, giving Kirishima one last pat on the shoulder before rushing over to the kitchen once Bakugo started hollering. Something about preventing the angry blonde from blowing up everyone's hands during a game of slapjack. With a chuckle, Kirishima stood up, water glass in hand, and made his way to the kitchen to witness an apparent, intense game of cards between Shoji, Todoroki, Tokuyami, and Bakugo. Everyone else crowded around the table, either taken out during the duration of the game or only present to spectate. As intrigued as Eijirou was to see who would win, he felt the air of the room suddenly become thick, the quiet whispers of his thoughts growing louder as he shook his head. The low hum called to him again, making his head spin. Gulping down the rest of his drink, he abandoned the glass in the sink, zipping up his hoodie as he made his way to the door. Some fresh air should be good for him, right? The early winter air nipped at his skin, temporarily serving as a pleasant distraction from the bubbling emotions rising in his chest. The humming in his head never went away, however, deeply resonating and making the hairs on the back of his neck stand. He breathed in between his teeth, closing his eyes and exhaling a misty wisp of air. What was happening to him? He kept his eyes shut, listening to the muffled music and chatter from inside, gritting his teeth as he listened even closer, as if he was waiting to hear the fresh snow hit the pavement. He clenched his fists from within his hoodie's pockets, tensing slightly when the atmosphere suddenly silenced, Kirishima momentarily thinking he went deaf. He visibly flinched, eyes flying open when the silence was overtook by the low hum fading into an audible sound of a guitar. He looked around frantically, trying to find the source of the sudden melody, only to find nothing but himself standing alone in the frostbitten outdoors. The guitar sounded so distant, it almost echoed in his head, yet Kirishima couldn't help but let his guard down. The beat of his heart served as the beat for the music, the rhythm matching perfectly with each strum of the guitar. He was unfamiliar with this progression of notes, yet it was like his soul instantly recognized the light plucking of each string, making his lips part slightly. A new emotion rose to his chest, lingering at the tip of his tongue, desperate to roll off his lips. He still felt apprehensive, having little to no idea what was going on, but he couldn't fight off the feeling. The music swayed gently in his ears, accompanied by the loud drumming of his heart. He couldn't help it. He began to sing. Actually sing. Not like the humorous blabbing into the mic like he did just minutes before. Sing. As in, his heart cried out every emotion into this unknown song. Sing. As in, every perfect note sung by his own voice surprised him. His baritone voice vibrated with feeling, called out with purpose, echoed with longing. His heart swelled as each syllable fell sweetly from his lips like honey, enraptured by the pleasant chill of winter. He couldn't fight off the helpless smile slowly growing on his face as he continued to sing along with the music in his head. He was proven wrong when the smile was quickly wiped off when the guitar faded slightly to allow another voice to lace itself into the song. Kirishima didn't know whose voice it belonged to, yet he listened as the voice intertwined with his in a sweet harmony. The redhead felt the cold of November cease as the blush on his cheeks warmed his entire body, listening as the voice took over for the rest of the verse. They sounded otherworldly, tone weaved with overwhelming passion and warmth. Their level of longing matched Kirishima's, like hands reaching out to embrace him, to shield him from the cruelties of the world. They called to him. He could feel it. And he answered, receiving the emotions from the voice and responding back tenfold. He didn't care if anyone could hear him sing with this phantom of a voice, luring him in like a siren and drowning him in a sea of his repressed emotions. He welcomed it, his lungs finally acknowledging the burning sensation he's been keeping to himself the last few weeks, completely erasing all the doubt and envy in his mind. This time, he let himself go, and by God did it feel good. This was it. This proves it. He has a soulmate. Ladies and gentlemen, it is currently hailing outside. Now is not the best time to record, but head filled with rampant thoughts, but still feeling obligated to congratulate his friends. Actually, he brought his head forward. Yikes. He brought his head forward. Ooh! He wasn't particularly looking, waiting excitedly, almost impatiently to... What the frick? It almost infuriated. God. I can't voice Mina, hello? A low humming distantly. He breathed in between his teeth. So enchanting, I'm trapped and drowning, here for everyone to see. They don't notice how far away I am from everyone and everything. Silly to have gambled with my heart out on the line. It's just... Oh.